Welcome to In Search Of. We are the podcast for those searching for meaningful conversations around the automotive industry. As always, I'm thrilled to be joined by automotive industry educator and Wikimotive co-founder, Zach Billings. Welcome, Zach.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Excited for this.
Zach, yeah, always a pleasure. And today's guest on In Search Of is a longtime Wikimotive friend and partner, Patrick Downs of Ruge's Automotive. Patrick, great to have you.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Patrick, I know we go back a long time, and we see you fairly regular in person, typically at conferences. I think the last time I saw you in person would have been, DMSC in Austin last year, and if I remember, it got a little foggy, but I remember there was a bottle of wine involved. Am I getting this right, Patrick?
There absolutely was. There was a magnificent bottle of wine involved, in fact. So yes, I was moderately sober, but I remember it like it was yesterday.
Your level of excitement was insane.
Well, there is a reason why there's a photo of me kissing you on the cheek, Zach. We don't have to show that to the entire audience.
Or we do, but that we can talk about that in post production. But as always, as every time we get together, it was a great time, and we appreciated that and appreciate you hanging out with us today. So
I'm sorry, I just got to interrupt your wonderful introduction for just a moment, because if I go amongst yourselves somewhere, you will see the picture of the. Well, you won't be seeing, but it's actually on my.
That's okay.
Still.
We'll take care of it. We'll get that from you. Yeah, I look forward to sharing that. So, Patrick, while we're longtime friends and partners in the automotive space, why don't you tell our audience a bit about you and Ruge's Automotive?
Certainly. Ruge's Automotive, we're celebrating our 90th year this year. So we go all the way back to Oldsmobiles in 1935. We're in the beautiful Hudson Valley, halfway between New York City and the state capital in Albany, right on the Hudson River. And it's a beautiful place to sell cars. But we are a small fourth-generation family-owned set of dealerships. We got 4 rooftops, 3 small domestics, Chevy, Ford, and CDJR. And then we have a Subaru store that amazingly we're celebrating our 55th year with Subaru. So we're one of the very first, back when they were, 2-stroke lawnmower engines and all that good stuff. So I've been with the organization for a little over a dozen years, came into the car business from the publishing field about 15, 20 years ago. And I love the fact that this business changes every Tuesday. Don't you? I'm supposed to couch that as it's always something new to learn, rather than, oh, great, now we have to do everything differently again. But it's, as we say, it's Google's world, and we just live in it. So, it's never boring, that's for sure.
Well, I think that leads to, a great place to start off, in that since COVID, a lot has changed, and how fast things change is ever increasing. And I think one of the biggest things that we've all seen is the takeover of the mega dealer group. You mentioned from the outset here that you guys are a small group, and so what are the challenges that you face as a 4-store group in a mega group world? What does that look like for your day to day, and how does that kind of change your reality?
They're huge. The challenges are huge. As a group, we're only doing 230 new used a month. So most people have one store that does that, and then they have a dozen stores. So it's very different. And even though we're in a relatively small market, we've seen since COVID several of our competitors go into the big groups, and that gives them entree to a lot of different things, bigger budgets and bigger teams, and sometimes more inventory and shareable inventory and all sorts of things. So we're always trying to adapt to that. And I would say the way that we do that is that we just have to double down on being local. A lot of these stores, sometimes they're even being managed out of a different time zone than we're in, but often a different state, certainly a different zip code. And so what we try and do is just dig deeper into our community and make our ties stronger and work with different groups. And, we can't compete on inventory. We can't compete on price. We compete on the experience. And that's pretty much what we do all the live long day.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed just in my general interactions with some of the larger groups, and this isn't the case of all of them, but with some of them, as you said, they're being managed out of another state, another time zone, and you'll run into some of the groups that have like centralized marketing arms that are, 7, marketing specialists in an office somewhere, nowhere near most of their stores, sometimes don't even know, like if you ask them, are you targeting this area? Or are you looking to serve customers in this area? They don't even have the familiarity with the local area. And so definitely an advantage that resonates for you in my mind is, just boots on the ground understanding of what Ruge's environment is.
Absolutely. And we've done that with your organization and with some of our other vendors who've actually been to where we are. We're not a drop a pin. We're right on a river. You need to go across the bridge and pay the toll, and that's a mental block for a lot of people. And then you got mountains, and then you got the Connecticut state line, and you got the Massachusetts state line, and so it's complicated, and it's very rural unless you go across one particular road. So it's not a straightforward thing, like you say, when you've got people that are trying to manage that from far away. Which is good for us. So
yeah, yep.
So one of the things that's really anchoring this is a level of understanding, and not only understanding your community, but being a part of it. How does that translate to actions that you're taking? What does that actually look like in how you make an impact there?
Yeah, well, we take a lot of just what you would think of as key demographics and just try and work with them. One of the strengths that we really try and play to is the sales experience for women. Traditionally, it's always been, a difficult road for women to come in and buy a car. It's not as it used to be, 10, 20 years ago, but it's still not necessarily a level playing field. And, we are a woman-owned company. We're 75% of our service managers are women. We have women salespeople. We have women techs. We try and lean into that. We've sponsored women racing Subarus. We've had women's service clinics, which have done really well. There's other markets too. Whether it's veterans that we have on staff. We have veterans that go all the way back to Vietnam. And so we'll take a program like Chevy's Wreaths Across America and really amp up our participation in that. I mean, that's where you will go and put US flags on veterans' war graves. And where we are, the history's so rich, we have war graves that go back to the Revolutionary War. So we certainly try and market that historical angle. We have a lot of people that come up from New York City that have second homes and buy cars from us that they don't need in the city. So we just try and lean into the beauty and the history of the area. The gay community is another one. We've got a 10-year plus relationship with the organizations up here. During COVID with Subaru, we even got into a national commercial where It's like, how do you have Pride Month when you can't have a parade for Pride? So we ended up taking the parade to individual people's houses and film that, and that was a wonderful thing to do. So that's how we try and just build those links with the community that you're not going to get from a mega dealer. So
something you said early on there, I think back to some experiences that we've had in my household. I remember being at a large mega group, to be unnamed, and it was a Toyota store, and the sales manager quite literally stood over my wife while she sat in a chair attempting to make a purchase. And ultimately, we ended up choosing a brand and a dealership we would have never otherwise, strictly because of the way they treated her. Like I feel like she could set a service appointment or go in and buy another vehicle, and I don't have to do anything in terms of watching out for behavior like that. And I think that's everything you said there is, I think, really powerful and really something that needs to be at the forefront of the conversation with dealerships doing better in terms of how we're treating people. How are they treated when they come through the door? Because, what really, I think, to summarize everything you just said, at least in my mind, is Ruge's Automotive behaved like a upstanding member of the community, and turns out that actually is beneficial to the community and to the business. This sounds like what she said.
Well, and a little bit of color for everybody watching. So Ruge Subaru has 1,500 reviews, which is not at all unheard of as a quantity, but they have a 4.9 star rating with those 1,500 reviews. That is unheard of.
And that's just our sales page. The service page is over 2,000 at 4.8. All our stores are 4.8 or higher, except for Ford sales, because when we bought that store 5 years ago, Google made us take the 4.3 rating, and it's taken us 5 years to turn a 4.3 into a 4.7, and it'll probably take us another 2 years to get to 4.8. But that's just my cross to bear. But yeah, we spent a lot of time on reputation management. So imagine how I felt when everybody said, well, AI is definitely going to lean into reputation management. And I'm like, that's my birthday gift for the year right there. So
Automatic
lucky
win.
than good.
Yeah, right. AI comes along, and the number one thing that impacts queries in a way that you can actually have control over is reputation. And you've got the best one I can recall having seen. And what a great way to compete against big groups by having 4.8, 4.9 star averages that are just unheard of.
I think another thing that just struck me as you went through all that was your near instantaneous recall of stats and metrics. I have to say, I obviously we're having this conversation live. You didn't know where that was coming. For you to be able to rattle off where you're at with reviews, that was I have to say that was pretty impressive. What type of supporting staff? What does your marketing team look like?
The marketing team is myself and Jennifer. That's it. Jen's from a different generation. She's in charge of TikTok and social and all the things that passed me by a little bit more. But it's just the two of us. And we would love 4 people, but sometimes 2 can do the business of at least 3.5 people. So I'm really blessed to have her work with me, and we that way you're completely in your business rather than having someone run social from somewhere else and those kinds of things that when you fracture it out, it doesn't improve things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, given that lean structure and that you're 2 that would ideally like to be 4 and probably could be 5. Talk to me about measurement and accountability. I mean, how do you keep everything on rails? How do you keep it accountable? Because obviously, resources are thinner, and you've got to make the most out of everything you've got. How do you keep it accountable?
That's true. I mean, I think marketing is always looked at as, oh my goodness, look how much money they spend. And they don't always look at how much money they bring in, especially when there's only two people. But measurement and accountability has always been a big thing for me. And it started off just as trying to master analytics and look in there and find out what was working. And then, Brian Pash had ROI bot and he turned it into VistaDash, and we got into that the week after he had sold it. But we used that for several years, and that was really helpful in getting us to really concentrate on what was working in our budget and what wasn't. And it allowed us to test. That's really important. We don't A/B test as much as we would like, but we're certainly always trying slightly different things and seeing if it's improving. And then, they got bought, and that became the time to move on to Clarivoy, which we've been with for the last year and a bit. And that really kind of flipped things around, because we went from last click attribution to the full customer journey. And then you have these just moments where you're like, I am a complete marketing idiot. And that happened to me right before we went to Clarivoy. I said, we've been on Auto Trade for 20 years, and we spend twice as much money as that we spend on cars.com, and they always sell the same number of cars. And I was like, we're going to get rid of Auto Trader, and the world is not going to end. And the world did not end, but as soon as we started looking at the customer's journey, I was like, this is the worst decision made since I don't know, since whenever. And we had to beat a hasty retreat back into Auto Trader, and all things are good. But it's a constantly evolving thing, and obviously AI is affecting that in many ways that will be revealed more with time. But it's just very important for us to spend that money and look and see what is working for us and where we can improve.
So I have a side question about that. With your journey with Clarivoy and looking at Auto Trader's efficacy, was it Auto Trader specifically for you, or was it third parties full stop that you found were effective?
Third parties full stop.
Really?
I was blown away at 80-something% of our sales, the people have been on a third-party site. Even if they didn't interact with our inventory, they're there. And it seems as if that is a trend right now, that, they have big budgets and they have name recognition. And Car Gurus is another one. I've had a love-hate isn't the right way to describe it, but that, dealing with the whole non-paid, anonymous email format is always tricky. But whenever we've paid, it never seemed like we got that kind of traction, and we're back into that now, and we're seeing some results. So even things like going into TrueCar, which certainly is not the company that it was 10 years ago when it was in the business of just annoying everyone. Now they're a partner, and it's an interesting, different way of catching people. So
Clarivoy data definitely exposes the shopping behavior, broadly speaking, that takes place on the third party sites in terms of identification of inventory and people shopping around for price. And I do find that for most dealers, at least one, often two of the third parties works for a given dealer. And when they have all of them, I usually find it's like one or two work and one or two don't. But there's no doubt that there is value to be had there, and it can just vary from store to store which one. Clarivoy is a helpful way to look at that.
Yeah, and also helps us in our SCM. It helps us look at which campaigns are effective, and then we're able to take their data, push it back to our SCM providers, and have them. It's always small adjustments. That's what we're always looking for.
Question for both of you on that, honestly, is do you think some of that is remnants of learned behavior during COVID? I mean, once upon a time, you were just flushing money with third-party listing sites. But given the fact that for a period of time nobody had inventory, do you think this is some remnants of a behavior, a consumer behavior that was learned over that period of time?
Undoubtedly, to some degree, in my opinion. You've got QR codes had gone dead, and then we all learned to scan them on restaurant menus during COVID. And we've seen that learned behaviors can happen as a result of that. And Patrick, you've got a longer kind of history than just COVID to look at. What do you think in terms of behavior with it before versus now?
No, it definitely went through a change, and we've seen it come down and come back again, I think. But we're definitely got to the point where we're post-COVID with a capital P and a capital C. I mean, that market has now changed for good, from a bargaining standpoint, from a pricing standpoint, from a merchandising standpoint, and from a third-party standpoint, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Given all that, where if you had to look back and either look at some mistakes that you've made along the way, or mistakes that you see other dealers or dealer groups making, what's something that you've missed or you see missed all the time in measurement, specifically as it pertains to marketing?
I wouldn't say so much a mistake. I owned up to that mistake, so I'll own up to what I think has been a success. And cover your ears while I talk about our investment in organic. That was something that we just decided that we needed to do. If we had a brand that had been around for a long time and people, it was great name recognition, but if we could add that to the algorithms of search, then we just decided that we're going to go all in for that, and we're not going to worry about if it takes a year or if it takes 2 years. We're going to build this thing up, and that is going to be one of our silver bullets against our competition, because that way we can't compete in SEM budget, but if we are smarter on the SEO side, that's going to pay dividends for us on several different fronts. So, you guys have been working on these sites for a number of years now, and it turned out to be one of my smarter decisions, without a doubt.
I was going to say, most certainly humbling and appreciative of that, and I believe it was February of 22, if my going back machine is where we started. So February 22, yeah.
It certainly builds up over time, and the best time to plant the crop was 9 months ago, and then before that, which is
better than planting the tree under which the shade you will not experience. Right? You want to get something. I want to live long enough to see something out of this. It's just not instant gratification, which is, of course, everybody wants that. So.
Yes, and that was going to be my contribution to Dan's question is, setting aside the maybe self-serving answer, which would be, I think the biggest mistake people make is not taking organic as seriously as they should. The broader view of that would be bouncing back and forth and reacting too quickly to the moment and not thinking long-term and how to set yourself up for success over a long period of time, I think is the mistake most often made in our industry. And, even right now, you look at AI, I see a lot of decisions being made just chasing the buzz and not the substance of that subject matter. And I think it's it's a big mistake to go chasing things that are just shiny in the moment. We say it again and again and again, but chasing the shiny thing doesn't tend to pan out unless you just happen to get lucky. I mean, the blind squirrel finds a nut, but I think thinking about long-term success and planning your approach strategically is important.
Well, here's the classic Patrick Downs marketing way of AI. Ready? We looked around and we decided, and I said this in Phoenix, I said, this is the year we're going to do something with AI. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but we're going to do something. And so we are testing AI, but I was like, let's test it with our worst performing store, the one that has the problems. Now, yes, you'd like everything to be great, and then you can just see what the effect is there. But I was like, so if we like screw it up royally, nobody's going to notice because there's some other things screwed up there as well. So that's kind of the theory that we've started over the last 2 weeks with this, and it's already an interesting journey. I look forward to the rest of the year to see how it goes.
I think,
and we already saw a little bit of it in my PM meeting this morning with Wiki. So yeah,
I think an underpinning of all of those answers and that commentary is not only consistency in approach, right? We started off this conversation talking about how fast things change. So if you're always reacting to how fast things change with changing everything to meet what you see or think you see, you're kind of nowhere. And I think some of this goes back to a steady hand in understanding that from the marketing department, if you will, and it also requires a steady hand at the ownership and leadership level of an organization to say, we're not going to expect your rapidly thrashing about trying to meet every little change that may or may not be happening in the industry, because that's an important part. Having that support, I think, is also a key contributor to that.
Yeah, and I think not just that, it goes over to the vendor side. We've seen the most success where we have been able to build a lasting relationship with a representative and management that isn't changing all the time. And you can have a good product, but if you can't build that relationship that allows you to test things and as we spoke before, understand the unique community that a dealer is often in, you're not going to get very far. And, I'm not going to, but I could list a bunch of vendors where we've ended up with sabotage results because we haven't been able to build that. On the converse side, we've had some people that we've worked with for 10 years, and you get, everybody's favorite thing is compound interest, right? While you're asleep, you're making tons of money, and a vendor relationship can be very much be like that, and that's very important to us.
With that, what do you value in a partnership? What do you value in a relationship with a vendor or an agency?
I think you've got to have product knowledge, you've got to have market knowledge, you've got to have an interest in your dealership. But on the other side, I understand it's really tough. It just keeps getting tougher, and a lot of that blame falls at the door of the OEMs, especially on the website side where, there's so much pressure on pricing to be able to be in a program. So you're going to end up with people handling more dealerships and not having the time to scratch the surface. So when you do have a vendor that does have a track record of longevity with their employees, and once they've learned a little and you've learned the personalities of the people you're dealing with, they will push back, and that's good. And I can say I think this, and people will say, well, I'm really not sure about that, but in more colorful terms, and we'll have a really meaningful conversation, and that's really important to us, and that's where our business will improve with those kinds of conversations. And Wiki is one of 3 or 4 vendors where we really have that relationship multi-year and are able to just have a higher level of discussion about, what the hell can we do about this problem that is none of our making, that kind of thing.
Well, and to your previous point, compound interest is the best, and you want it to be able to continue to compound while you're asleep, as you put it. And I think, in the vendor space, there are only so many of us that are always putting dealers' best interest first. And that's not to toot our horn. That's, there are definitely us and a number of vendors who do, but you should be able to entrust that your vendors are putting your best interest first, even when you're not micro scrutinizing. You know what I mean? And certainly that takes time to build that trust in the partnership. But that's how they need to work to be effective.
Absolutely.
So if that's how the vendor and agency world needs to work, as a theme, what can the vendor and agency side be doing better as a whole?
I think education is key. I think vendors really need to make sure that the people who are customer facing really have an understanding of what's going on. Unfortunately, they need to kind of know what's going on with all the OEMs. Whether it's where they're from in terms of production, in terms of new models, what they're doing on EVs, what they're suddenly not doing on EVs, what they're doing on pricing. And I sympathize. It's a long list, but I don't have time in my weekly, bi-weekly, monthly meetings to play educator with that.
Yeah. So just to clarify, when you say education, you don't mean the vendor educating the dealer. You mean the vendor needs to be educating their own people to be effective.
Absolutely. So I'm very willing to do the Ruge's ramp up and give you that education, but I don't want to have to keep telling you, what Ford is planning or what Ford is doing.
Right.
You should know that. You should be, if you're proactive and on top of that, and you should know kind of how my Ford thing is doing as well. At least for what you can see from the website, which will tell you a bunch of things as well as social media signals. And
for sure, to all the vendors out there who might be listening, as simple as whatever your internal communication, whatever your internal communication system is, Slack or whatever else, have a channel where you just put out industry updates. When a car gets released, put it out there. When the Escape gets discontinued in a number of states, put it out there, and make sure your people just have proactive knowledge when things are coming down the pike so that they're talking to your dealers about it before your dealers are talking to your people about it.
No, I mean, I've certainly been on the other side of the desk, and yes, you have numbers that you live and die by, but you want to be a resource. You want to be the person that somebody's going to pick up the phone and call about something when they want. And with many vendors, I don't know, is it, but I'll find out, is as we say to our salespeople, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say if you do it. But there can be a big drop off for I'll find out and I'll let you know. One doesn't always follow the other.
I think as another question to that, is there something that vendors or agencies could be doing for single rooftop dealers or small dealer groups? Is there something that you could be benefiting from that could be really tailored towards groups like yours?
I think short of us filming the real life experience of a small store, and again, this gets back to certainly our experience now is more and more of our vendors are out of state, and people are not coming into the stores the way that they used to, and certain vendors it's more important than others, but just have them come and sit in the corner for half an hour and see what it's really like. And I think that gives you, drive out to our Chevy store that is, next to a cow field, and you're really in the middle of nowhere, and see what do they do to try and drum up business? How do they treat that precious person that walks in the door that they weren't expecting? On sales and fixed ops, it goes both ways. So a little bit of experience is really gives you a step up, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a vendor that operates remotely and does not necessarily have the local resource to just send a person to your specific store on a regular interval the way that we would love to. One of the ways that we try to work around that, and that I recommend that vendors be thinking about, is hire people who have been there, right? Like, while we may not have someone who's been, at one specific store next to the cow pasture, we do have employees who have come from dealerships that operate in rural environments. And we also have, employees who have come from dealerships in metro environments. And we have that cross section of knowledge. I think that a great way for vendors to be able to better serve their dealers is to make sure that you actually have tier 3 automotive retail and service experience baked into your staffing and your staffing mix, and especially the dealer facing staffing mix, so that we're speaking the same language when we're having a conversation about your needs.
Absolutely. I've been a salesperson before I was in marketing, but before that, when I was not in the automotive space, I worked with, I would go to Detroit. I worked very closely with the Subaru corporate in Cherry Hill. And so I thought, well, I know Subaru. I could sell Subarus. Why not? And so I got a job working for a Subaru dealer, not called Ruge's. And I thought I knew what it was going to be. And it was completely 180 degrees different from that. The retail experience compared to the corporate experience, what I thought would, it was brutal. It was brutal, the difference. And if you have lived that life for a short or a long amount of time, you bring real, then I'm really interested in listening to what you have to say, because you've been there and you've done it, and we can swap more stories, and you know what it's like. And or if you haven't done that, but you have access to someone that has, that's not a bad thing either.
Sure. Yep, absolutely.
Patrick, tell me about, we've talked a lot about change, and obviously, as we've alluded to at numerous points here, AI is kind of the elephant in the room at this point. Where do you see the future headed in your eyes in terms of AI as it pertains to Google, as it pertains to your dealerships?
You're just serving them up for me to whack them out. If I knew the answer to that, Daniel, I wouldn't be talking to you, right? No, I don't know. But that's part of the joy of working it out. But we are so far, concerned isn't the word, but we're certainly tracking very closely how it's affecting SEM and SEO. From an SEM perspective, we're dialing down our budgets. As I said, we can't compete as closely as we would like with bigger stores near us. So why not take some of that money and put it somewhere else to, again, extend our advantage in places where we can do more than compete, where we can lead. And from SEO, or GEO, or whatever you want to call it, we're all in that ride together. And when we see, we can't look at SEM rush numbers because they're going through a phase right now. We're all working it out. I can't imagine we're going to be radically. We're just going to be getting that information in a different way, and we're going to lean more heavily. I hate to say it, we're going to lean heavily on you to work out the answer to that and to show us the true path of salvation. What can I say?
Well, and you said it right there. People will get their information a different way. So I'll add my 2 cents, which is that the informational side of search and the entire ecosystem is going to radically change. I mean, it already has significantly changed, and that will continue. The transactional side, I think, is being overblown in terms of the concern side. And you said, not so much concern as tracking, which is the right way to look at it, right? There's going to be change here. There's going to be, frankly, new opportunity, new places that you can develop visibility. And I mean, your star rating, for instance, it may necessitate the dealers start to shift their thinking about what's important and how to leverage those opportunities. Traditional search is not going away, not for the transactional type searches, not for the local searches. They're dramatically shifting in terms of how people gather information about vehicles and begin the shopping process and think about a lease versus a buy, and a Subaru versus a comparable model. And that's going to change a lot. The transactional side, not as much, except when you get to the answer engines, right? Your LLMs, your Chat GPTs, your Perplexity, Gemini, and in those, different things are going to impact the result. Content will still impact it. Google results will still impact it, but so will reputation. When someone does use one of those for something like best Subaru dealer in my area, and I think the priorities are going to need to shift, but also the impact is not going to be quite as sharp as everyone expected. Just this morning, I was listening to CNBC, and they were saying, have we overblown the AI trade in the in the stock market, right? And I think there's a lot of hype, and we're starting to come through the sort of the fog of war with that, to where it's becoming a little bit more clear what's going to matter, what's not. And I think it's increasingly going to be something we all need to pay attention to, but it's going to be iterative.
Damn, I wish I was that smart. But what I'm looking forward to is lots of spam emails saying, yes, I'll get you another 1,000 5-star Google reviews so you can win the AI war. Maybe I should start that. Maybe we should just start a little side hustle with that. I don't know.
Oh man, if I just wanted to turn a quick buck and hype things up, there are a lot of great email subject lines that will capture attention right now, yes, unfortunately.
And likely only to get worse, because while AI certainly can't help you buy anything with any success, I know because I try regularly, it sure can generate some spammy email content at scale as fast as you can ask it to generate it. I say that as I am far from the anti-AI anything. I think it's going to be a tremendously powerful tool. But it's been for me probably 6 months since I've used Google for any sort of information request. I mean, I just don't even bother anymore. But try as I might, and I have tried hard, I have yet to make a transaction through anything that has occurred through ChatGPT as a direct link or anything like that. It has actually proven to be extremely frustrated, and I've really actually tried at great lengths to make a purchase that way, and I haven't been able to do it. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to be most certainly iterative, and AI is not here to take over the world, but it is here to make many tasks a lot faster, and a lot maybe your team of 2 doesn't need to be a team of 5 anymore, because I think there is certainly some benefits at scaling less nuanced tasks through AI, and I think that's where potentially dealerships, marketing departments can see a lot of benefit.
Yeah, I mean, where was AI for my high school and college years? That's what I want to know. But no, we use it. I use it particularly for writing radio ads. I find it really helpful for that. At least it'll do 80% of it, and then I'll just pretty it up a little. But I found it really useful there.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think that's the takeaway for dealers that are watching, is just thinking about what are the good use cases and what are the not great use cases. It's not that it's good or it's bad. It's not that it works or it doesn't. It's that there are some things it's great for in terms of load reduction and taking some of the creative burden off of you. But when it comes to something like how does the consumer use it in regards to driving a vehicle sale, don't just stop at, well, do I show up or don't I show up for this search? Actually run that through to trying to figure out, like, shop through the process like a consumer, like you were saying, Dan. If you actually try to use ChatGPT or one of the LLMs to get all the way through to a purchase decision on a product, submitting a lead or putting something in your cart, it's very, very difficult to actually get all the way through that process and get what you were looking for. So I encourage everyone who thinks that that's the way, or that's the way that things are headed, just try it, and don't just try the single search to see where you show up or where you don't. Try clicking through, try seeing what the experience is like. Often the links are broken or don't go to the right place. It's bizarre almost how ineffective it can be for certain types of searches.
All right. Well, I think we're certainly. I'm looking at the timer here, and we're certainly running up against it. So, with that, with the end of every podcast, we like to do a little rapid fire section, something we're going to introduce. So, Patrick, I'm going to have 3 questions for you. We're going to try to do the question and hit the nail on the head as concisely as possible with an answer. So I don't think we didn't at all prepare for this. So we're going to see where it goes. So ready for your first rapid fire question, and I'm going to read from a list here. So are you ready, sir? All right. So if you could keep one marketing metric and you had to trash the rest, what would that one marketing metric be?
The beautiful thing about having all this data is you don't have to scrutinize all of it, but the more you have, the more it tends to paint a picture and push you kind of in the right idea. Can I phone a friend and ask Zach? I mean, he'd have a much smarter answer than I do.
I love it. Phone a friend. My fast answer would be I'd want to keep probably click to calls in Google Analytics. I think that literally looking at store call volume might actually be just as good. But click to calls, I'm assuming I can still measure it by channel if that's my answer.
That's
so I'm going to say,
on then. We'll let you have it by channel.
Click to calls by channel would be my one thing I'd keep.
Got it. All right. Question 2.
I love Patrick. You were really there with it. I mean, you led Zach to that answer. Is my takeaway from this. Okay, great. Let's see.
That, by the way, was one of your 2 or 3 lifelines. So,
okay.
One of your 3 lifelines. I love this. So let's see. A long-standing or a belief that has changed over the past year as it pertains to your dealership, the marketing, the metrics, things you do that you don't do anymore. So one biggest belief that you've changed over the past year.
I think we've already touched on that, and that's third party, and that's my willingness to see the error of my ways and really see post-COVID what's been going on in the market there. It is certainly for us indisputable that that's an important part of our customers' journey. So. That's a little too easy, but after the difficult first question, I deserve a gimme. So there we go.
I love it. All right, number 3 here. So Patrick, one capability you double down on that you think big groups can't copy.
I think it's that our corny slogan at Ruge's is small town feel with big brand appeal, which I kind of have a love-hate relationship with, but we're a small town and we are very anchored there, and we just keep pounding away. Like, how can we do more things? Recently I've been spending a lot of time going on the radio, and a couple of years ago we were spending no money on the radio, and I'm just kind of hitching our wagon to a local radio personality who has a following, is an influencer before there were influencers, and he happened to buy a car from us, and we've just found ways to play off of each other, and again, just get that connection with people that follow this guy. Well, religiously is not the right word, but you know what I mean. And so, yeah, just doubling down on that local content, ring the bell, and just our presence. Yeah. The one thing you can't do is kick us out of the Hudson Valley, because our roots are too deep and wide there.
Thank you for being the first to play this game. So
after that, even though it's only noon here in the Hudson Valley, I can be very European and open a really nice bottle of wine with lunch. So I'm in a home office. So it's how we started. Maybe that's how we'll finish.
And we're filming on a Friday here, so I love this. So, Patrick, I really want to thank you for joining us and for our long-standing relationship and friendship. You guys are awesome. You're awesome. Look forward to doing this again. And for our listeners and viewers out there, if somebody wanted to get a hold of Patrick Downs at Ruge's Automotive Group, how would they get a hold of you, or where would they find you?
LinkedIn is probably the best way to reach out to me.
Great. We'll make sure.
I want to thank you guys. It's always a pleasure to see you remotely or in person. And you're not only a great and valued partner for us, but we greatly appreciate you investing in education for our whole market. So, hopefully somebody might learn even what not to do from me, but if they learn something, that's a good thing. And I'll enjoy learning from, other people that you have sitting in the hot seat. So that's great. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks, Patrick.
Zach, any final words?
As always, anytime I'm presenting or offering information, what I'd like to leave people with is reach out if you're looking for help just analyzing your current status organically, your current status, whether it be third parties, SEM. Happy to take a look at some analytics, happy to take a look at some rankings over a market area, give you my opinion, and that's with or without a demo. So reach out on LinkedIn, reach out on the website. I'm easy to find, and I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Well, Patrick and Zach, thank you so much. And that wraps up this episode of In Search Of. Join us again for the best conversations, the most meaningful conversations you can have in the automotive industry. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Take care,
Thanks,
guys.
Sam.
Bye.